Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we will be looking at an exclusive interview that was done with a journalist called Nick Pisa. This interview gives us some information about how Warren felt about Jay going missing, and even Nick thinks Ayub's story doesn't add up.
Still open. Yesterday I can tell you that his father, Warren, was up there, as was his uncle, Glenn, and there were a few local hikers up there as well. And they spent the entire day up there. They were up there from about 9:30 till about 4:30, in pretty extreme temperatures. It was very hot up there yesterday. It was about 25 degrees. There's no shade or anything. It's very exposed. It's very treacherous conditions up there. And they came down and they spoke to us as we were waiting there, and they were just saying the search still goes on, and we still have hope that we will find him and he will return home to Oswaldtwist in Lancashire, where he lives.
It's a mystery that's gripped many people. Have they been using drones, helicopters, trying to search, little chasms and gullies and abysses as well?
Yeah, so that's what they did for the first, say, 2 weeks or so of the search. Yeah. They had drones up, helicopters, dogs, mountain rescue teams, but again, proved fruitless. No trace of him was found. They've also had various sort of TikTokers up there, mountaineers with a bit of experience. There's a British guy up there who spent nearly 3 weeks up there himself. He's found nothing. And I say, just a complete mystery. You have to. I mean, we did a little bit of this. Myself and a colleague did a little bit of the trail yesterday ourselves, and because they think that's where his phone pinged the last time, and it's just really unforgiving. And you do have to wonder, really, did he really come this way? It's all very bizarre, because that trail just peters out into nothing after about a mile and a half. And as I say, it's really unforgiving. There's cactus bushes everywhere, there's boulders, it's slippy, there's sheer drops as well. And like I say, I just can't picture a 19-year-old guy going through that terrain. It just strikes me as odd. I have to say, his father and his uncle yesterday said to us that they are now of the belief that there is some third party involved, and he's not on that mountain.
So this interview was done before Jay was found, and you can hear that Nick says that it's very hard to believe that Jay actually did this journey. Chris Tenerife and many others have said that you need to see the mountains for yourself before you start asking questions. But Nick was there, and he's saying it's hard to believe. Then we also have Callum, who searched for Jay, and he's saying it's impossible for Jay to travel so far through the mountains. So, it's not like it's only people who didn't actually go to Tenerife that are saying this. People who saw the conditions and even searched for Jay are saying the same things. So we have every right to say that we don't think Jay actually decided to do this. Also, Nick says that Warren was saying to him that he believes there is a third party involved with Jay's disappearance, which means that he thinks foul play was involved. Warren hasn't said much about what he thinks recently, and since putting up the post saying that he has things he wants to say, but he's choosing to keep quiet, he hasn't spoken out about what he really thinks. But it's very clear what Warren was thinking at the time. The thing is, we never heard Rachel say that she thinks foul play is involved, not even once. So it seems like she knew from the start what her story was going to be.
And is there any way he could have got off the island and this not be detective via admin or CCTV?
Well, there is possible. There are loads of conspiracy theories knocking around on social media. It's just a complete whirlpool of speculation and theories. And amongst them is this one that possibly he was taken off the island and allegedly faked his own disappearance and might resurface again in a few weeks' time. I find that very hard to believe, but that is one of the theories that's not around.
But this was his first holiday alone. I mean, it seems odd that he would do a John Stonehouse, given that this was his first time he'd been abroad on his own.
Well, this is his first holiday with his friends, apparently. His father said it was his first holiday abroad with his friends, and he was really looking forward to it. And they described him as the life and soul of the party, and he was enjoying himself. He'd been to a 3-day festival that was here in Tenerife called the NRG Festival, the New Rage Generation Festival. And on that Sunday night into the early hours of the morning, he'd been at a nightclub called Papagayos for an after party. And we know that there he said to his friends, look, I'm going to stay on. I'm going to carry on partying with these 2 British guys that he'd met down there. And they returned home. But again, this story seems rather...
Notice how Nick says that Jay was going to keep partying with the 2 British guys who he met at an after party at Papagayos. This was all because of what Lucy said about them being strangers, when it turned out that actually they had all met up on the first night of NRG. So these lies that were told throughout the case really affected what everyone thought, and I believe it helped stop the truth from being found out.
The Kasim man is back in the UK, isn't he? And he's not a person of interest.
That's right, and again, the family find that really hard to believe, because Kasim and his friend, who has not been identified yet, were literally the last people to see him, bar a lady in the village of Maska who told him the time of a bus and then said that she saw him walking the wrong way up the mountain. These 2, Kasim and his friend, were deemed as irrelevant by the Spanish police and were allowed to return to the UK. And I'll say his father, Warren, just thinks that's really odd. I mean, his quote to me was, if you were Spanish and you took someone to the Lake District, would you be allowed to go back to Spain without being properly questioned and interrogated by the police? And although we should say there is no evidence, they just find that really hard to fathom and get to grips with.
Unbelievable that Ayub and Rocky could return to the UK without being interrogated and questioned properly. And the Spanish police instantly thought they were irrelevant and weren't involved with Jay's disappearance. It seems like the Spanish police didn't want to investigate this case properly, and like Warren says, if this was in England and someone went missing, then the person who they were last seen with instantly wants to go back to Spain. They wouldn't let that happen and would have definitely investigated this person as much as they could. Instead, it's like the Spanish police said, "Oh, don't worry, just go back to England. We don't really care about what happened." I can't believe that they allowed this to happen. Also, Nick says that Rocky hasn't been identified at this point, so Ayub's name was released, but Rocky's wasn't for some reason. I don't understand how Rocky managed to keep his name a secret. It really makes no sense to me.
And the woman who's told him about there were buses every 10 minutes who saw him go the wrong way, have you talked to her?
Yeah, that's a lady called Ophelia. It's actually her brother's Airbnb. And she told me that she indicated with her hands 10. Now, obviously, Kasim, I've noticed today, is telling a different story and saying he understood it to be every 10 minutes. But the buses aren't every 10 minutes up there. They're every couple of hours. It is a popular route, and there is a bus at 10 o'clock. I'm not sure whether that's been perhaps lost in translation there somewhere by Kasim. But some of the things he says, well, just don't pan out, saying that his friend Jay said that he wanted to carry on partying and his friends had left him. But his hotel room at the Paloma Beach is 10 minutes away. I don't understand why he would say that he hasn't got anywhere to stay and then go off with these 2 guys. There are just
so he had accommodation he didn't go to, and he went and dossed Kasim's and this other person's house instead. That's odd, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's again, sorry to keep referring to, that's again what his father and uncle said yesterday. They just didn't understand why he would do that. If he didn't have a key, if he'd lost the key, he could just ask at reception and get into his room and have somewhere to stay. Or if he was, if he'd had that much of a good time and maybe he was a little drunk, he could have done what other kids do down here. They sleep on the beach,
So weird. Why go off into the mountains with a pair of strangers?
So you can tell that Nick is saying that Ayub's story doesn't add up, and I'm glad that Nick has said exactly what he thinks and doesn't just follow the narrative. Because it's true, Ayub's story doesn't add up, and Warren agrees. Why did Jay go to the Airbnb with them? What's the actual reason? Because it wasn't because he lost his key? We know that because he gave it to Brad. which was a big change in Ayub's story in the first place. So the reason Jay went with them isn't because he couldn't get into his hotel. There were plenty of ways around this, as Nick explains. So Ayub's story doesn't add up. The only reason so many lies were told is because we haven't been told the truth. It's simple. If we were told the truth, there is no reason to lie and keep changing your story. The big question here is, why did Jay go to the Airbnb in the first place? And I believe that if we find out the real reason, then the truth will come with it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we will update you as we find out more.